All right, Nick, let's talk about the New Orleans Saints as the draft is getting close now. We're about a month away. We're starting to hear some news, and this latest draft news for the Saints, I think, took me by surprise, took you by surprise as well. Very intriguing update here on potential draft plans for the Saints. I think Saints fans will find this one fascinating. We'll get into that in just a second, but first, I'm Andrew. That's Nick, and this is Saturday Morning Inspection. All right, Nick, as I alluded to, the Saints, really interesting draft update here. We're going to jump straight into it, and then we'll just break it down here on the other side. This, of course, is over from on Saints Wire, and it says, the New Orleans Saints are sending members of the brass to Miami's Pro Day per New Orleans Football's Nick Underhill, which NOLA.com's Luke Johnson clarified to head coach Kellen Moore, plus offensive and defensive coordinators Doug Nussmeier and Brandon Staley, among others. Now, what does that mean? It means the Saints are scouting out available quarterback options. I think this is a really interesting update. I didn't see the draft going this way for the Saints, especially talking Miami here, but I think it's a very interesting one nonetheless. I know you've got some interesting thoughts on this one, Nick, and I'll let you break it down in just a second. But before we get to you, Saints fans, in the comment section below, a lot to unpack here. There's a lot of things that could happen here. But if we're talking, obviously Miami shows that, position in the draft is not necessarily an option, or not an option, with the Saints being at number 9. Who do you want quarterback-wise if they were to get a quarterback out of this draft? Is Cam Ward the only guy that you like? Do you like Shedeur Sanders? Are there other guys, Jalen Milroe guy, Quinn Ewers? Let us know who you think the best rookie quarterback fit for this Saints team would be if they were to go after one in the draft in the comment section below. But nonetheless, Nick, what are your thoughts on this latest out of New Orleans?
So it's very interesting that the Saints are sending their entire brass, right? All the big names down in Miami for the pro day to ostensibly scout Cam Ward, right? Now, the question is, are they really sending everyone there to scout Cam Ward? Is it a smoke screen? Like, it's really hard this time of year to really compare and contrast what different teams are doing to try and find out their strategy. So you have to take like a holistic approach, and you have to look at what are teams doing. And if the Saints were hypothetically trying to go after a young quarterback to reset their roster, there's a few things they would do, because there's basically 3 things every single team does when they're trying to acquire or they have a really young quarterback. And the first thing they try and do is hire a young offensive-minded, aggressive play caller as their head coach or their offensive coordinator. Obviously, the Saints have already done that with Kellen Moore, so check one box right there. The second thing they usually do is they surround him with experienced, reliable, team-first, non-diva playmakers, right? You don't want to put a young quarterback with a Stephon Diggs, an old Des Bryant, or anything like that. You want to find non-diva, like really team guys, reliable playmakers, surround him with. In step 3, you bring in veteran offensive linemen that may not be elite. You'd prefer them to be elite, but guys that have the patience, the positional flexibility, and really just the effort and desire to work with a young quarterback. Now let's go into what the Saints have done this offseason. Let's go ahead and go over to this next chart here, or this next graphic, I should say. And this is just highlighting the moves, the major moves the Saints have made on offense. So I talked about the first box they've already checked with bringing in Kellen Moore. How about the reliable playmakers? Brandon Cooks, as reliable as they come, consistent throughout his entire career. Saints, Patriots, Rams, Texans, Cowboys, just steady as they come. Non-diva, team first guy, 100%. You look at re-signing Juwan Johnson. Of course, he is a guy that's a reliable tight end. Tight end's a young quarterback's favorite weapon. You got Jack Stoll, a veteran tight end, more of a blocker, not really a playmaker, but a team kind of guy. Will Clapp, again, veteran offensive lineman, team guy, far from elite. And of course, earlier today, they brought in Dylan Ladouns, I should say the day before, a veteran offensive guard from the Tennessee Titans, again, who's worked with a young quarterback, right? Will Levis was with Tennessee the past couple seasons. So you can see when you look at all the moves the Saints have making, they're checking every single box as if they had, or if they're going after a young quarterback. And I think they're going after one in this draft. Either that, or they really believe Spencer Rattler's the guy. I think it's one or the other. I think they've made their decision at quarterback. I think that's the big thing here. The Saints have decided, as much as they publicly are saying nice things about Derek Carr, and look, they were going to say nice things about him no matter what. Whether they love him or hate him, publicly, they're going to say good things. But I think they've made their decision. I think they're going with a young quarterback, whether they're trading up in the draft to get award a Shadur Sanders, who, by the way, the Giants recently have made a couple moves at the quarterback position. The Titans are looking to potentially trade back. There's going to be opportunity here for the Saints to go up and maybe get their quarterback of the future without having to give up as much as people previously thought. I think the Saints have made their decision. And when you look at their entire approach this offseason, it's clear they're oriented their roster around a young quarterback. Either they believe Spencer Rattler is the guy or they're about to go get him. I think door number two is the answer here. I think the Saints are going whole hog after one of these quarterbacks. Cam Ward's probably their favorite to be the next New Orleans Saints signal caller.
Yeah, Nick, I would tend to agree with you here because when you look around the ball for the Saints, on the offensive side of things, it's a pretty talented offense. It's a good situation for any young quarterback
Yeah.
to come into. I mean, and you're talking about, signal callers there, Carr there. He's got a lot of money on his contract. It's going to be difficult to, move off of a guy like Derek Carr for the New Orleans Saints. But when we're talking salary cap, the Saints are generally a team that can figure out how to do anything, I would say. So nothing's off the table necessarily. But nonetheless, it seems like he's going to be there for at least this year, maybe next year. Who knows how that all falls. But when they talk about this, I think going after a young signal caller in the draft is a really good option because when you have limited salary cap, can't go out and get a free agent guy, but you can definitely bring in your quarterback of the future through the draft. And I think when you look at this team now, you brought in, Brandon Cooks, reliable guy. Like you said, Jawan Johnson, a great pass catching guy, familiar with, the team, familiar with the other players on the team. Jack Stoll, getting a little bit more protection when you want some heavier sets in there, a blocking tight end type of guy, shoring up that offensive line. I think things are looking really nice because any quarterback to come into an offense where you have Brandon Cooks, Rashid Shaheed, Chris Olave, and Alvin Kamara, and even Jawan Johnson, I'll throw him in there as well as your weapons. You got to feel pretty good about that. That's a pretty good set of guys to come into. Can't complain too much about that when it comes into things. So I think this team, like you said, it's one or the other here. It's either they decide that they are going to go with Spencer Rattler and they're setting up this team for that, or they're going to go after a young quarterback in the draft. And I'm curious what your thoughts are on this, Nick, because this is kind of my opinion on this. Is I think it's young quarterback in the draft specifically because does Kellen Moore want to, bet his future on a guy in Spencer Rattler that he had no part in going out and selecting? Or do you think he's more of looking after the guy that he wants to fit his offense that he wants to run?
Yeah, I think he's looking for the guy that fits his offense. If you look at Kellen Moore's career, he's inherited quality quarterbacks. He, of course, inherited Dak Prescott. Dak Prescott, he actually was a player, a teammate of Prescott's before Kellen Moore became a coach. But basically, he didn't draft Dak Prescott. He didn't develop Dak Prescott. He goes to the Chargers. He didn't draft Justin Herbert. He goes to the Eagles. He didn't draft Jalen Hurts, excuse me. So you look at this situation here. This is an opportunity for Kellen Moore to finally get his guy and develop and mature his own quarterback. And you brought up the Saints salary cap situation. I think the interesting dynamic here is let's parallel the situation here with what the Denver Broncos were facing going into last draft. They were moving off of Russell Wilson, the largest dead cap in salary cap history, National Football League history. Everyone just assumed the Denver Broncos were just going to be a disaster for years to come because of that cap situation. They draft Bo Nix. People thought maybe a little bit of a reach. Nix did a good job because he's a rookie. He's cheap. They're able to get some good players around him. Lo and behold, they make the playoffs, right? That's the Saints model. And they look at the situation with Derek Carr and they're probably like, listen, at some point we're going to move off a Carr. It's going to suck. Our salary cap situation isn't great. But the reality is, if we bring in a quality rookie quarterback, it makes all of this go away. It makes all of our bad salary cap decisions go away. Ask the Houston Texans. Just a couple of years ago, the Texans were in some not great salary cap straits, especially considering the fact they were a terrible football team. They bring in CJ Stroud, it just resets everything, and now they look a lot better as they orient themselves now to be a big time contender in the AFC. The Saints have a chance to just execute on that same exact model this upcoming draft. And look, I personally think Cam Ward is the guy. I think he's the best quarterback in the class. I think the Tennessee Titans want to trade back. I think if you're the Saints, if you called them and said, listen, number 9, next year's number 1, and we'll throw in a third round pick either this year or next year, I think the Titans take it. I think right now there's not a lot of demand for teams to trade up into the top three, top five to get a quarterback just because there's a feeling that the quarterback class is getting weaker. We can see that the quarterback carousel this offseason is kind of coming to a close. Kirk Cousins is still available. Aaron Rodgers is still available. But at this point, if you're a team looking to draft a quarterback or looking to get a quarterback, most of the guys have already been picked up. Most of the big names have already found a new destination. So the only people that are really looking to make this big move is a team like the Saints that have a starter in place that are just looking to find their quarterback of the future. I think this allows New Orleans a good opportunity to trade up and get their guy. And I think it's Cam Ward. There's a reason going to see him, but maybe it's somebody else, right? Maybe it's a Jackson Dart. Maybe it's a Quinn Ewers. Maybe it's a Jalen Milroe. Maybe it's a Sugar Sanders. Who knows? Although I think Sanders at this point, I feel like he's going to the New York Giants. I think that's probably set in stone. Sanders and Russell Wilson there in the Big Apple. But there's a lot of ways this can go. But I think the primary thing here is that the Saints have made their decision, and it's not going to be Derek Carr going to start going forward. I think it's a quarterback they're getting in the first round. I think they're probably going to trade up to get him. Kellen Moore, he's got a lot of goodwill. We know it's going to reset the franchise here. That's his plan. And I think he knows now's the time to go big, find his guy, develop him, and give him a great chance to be successful.